Ma'am, people like you usually bank somewhere else. Maybe you'd feel more comfortable at our community branch across town? The words floated through the quiet lobby, polite on the surface but sharp underneath. The manager's voice carried that calm confidence of someone too used to being obeyed. Her name was Linda Cooper, and she had worked in this branch of Metropolitan Trust Bank for almost 2 decades. Her manicured fingers tapped lightly against the marble counter as she studied the woman standing across from her, a woman whose presence demanded attention without a single word. Dr. Maya Carter adjusted the sleeve of her gray blazer and met Linda's gaze steadily. Her calm expression masked the tension rising beneath her skin. She'd heard variations of those words before, in hotels, on flights, at board meetings, all delivered with that same polite precision that said, "You don't belong here." But this time felt different. This time the story wasn't going to end the same way. At the far end of the lobby, a college student was filming a lighthearted video about saving money as part of her school project. Her name was Ella Park. She didn't realize that in less than 10 minutes, her camera would capture a moment that would change lives, a quiet act of defiance that would echo far beyond this bank. Have you ever walked into a place that should serve you, only to be treated like you didn't deserve to be there? The digital clock above the counter read 2:52 p.m. Maya checked her silver watch. 8 minutes until her next board meeting. She smiled faintly. Plenty of time, she thought. "I'd like to withdraw $50,000, Maya said softly. "It's for my son's university tuition. Here's my ID and account information." Linda glanced at the documents but didn't really see them. Years of habit had taught her how to judge people before the paperwork ever reached her hands. "This amount requires additional verification," Linda replied. "It's not standard for walk-in customers." Walk-in customers? The phrase landed like a pebble in a still pond. Small, but the ripples were immediate. Maya tilted her head. "I've had an account here for 11 years. I assume that's long enough to avoid being treated as a stranger." Linda's smile stayed fixed. "Of course, but large withdrawals come with risks. Fraud prevention, regulatory oversight, that sort of thing." The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Across the room, Ella's camera continued recording as the atmosphere shifted. What began as a normal banking errand was turning into something else. Something uncomfortable, tense, and impossible to ignore. Maya exhaled slowly. "I understand you have rules, but I also have a meeting in 8 minutes. Can we expedite the process?" "Ma'am, these things take time," Linda said coolly. "We must ensure the funds aren't questionable." That word, questionable, hit harder than it should have. It wasn't just about money. It was about identity. Behind the counter, a young teller named Sophie Torres whispered to her coworker, "Isn't that the woman from the Forbes article about black CEOs?" Her colleague shrugged. "They all dress the same to me." Linda pressed a small button under her desk. A tall security guard appeared moments later. Ethan Brooks, early 30s, quiet, observant. He froze when he saw Maya. "We have a situation," Linda announced, loud enough for the entire lobby to hear. "Please monitor while we complete verification." Ethan's jaw clenched. He'd seen this before. The same scenario replayed with different faces. Always polite, always professional, always wrong. He stepped closer to Maya. "Ma'am, is there anything I can assist you with?" "Thank you, Ethan," she said, reading his name tag. "I just need to make a withdrawal. That's all." By now, Ella's phone was buzzing with notifications. Her live stream, once intended for a class project, was drawing thousands of viewers. Comments began to flood in. "This isn't right. Is she being profiled? Why is this still happening?" The tension in the air thickened. The quiet hum of the bank's air conditioning was the only sound between words that cut deeper than anyone wanted to admit. Linda leaned forward again. "I'm afraid I'll need to speak with my supervisor. Transactions of this size are not typical for customers from—" She paused. "But the pause said enough. From where exactly?" Maya asked. Her tone was calm, but her eyes didn't move. Linda's lips parted, but no words came. The silence was louder than any answer she could have given. Then, the manager made the mistake that would change everything. "I just think some people should understand how things work at institutions like this," she said. "We have standards to maintain." The sentence landed like thunder. Ethan's shoulders tensed. Sophie stopped breathing. Ella's live stream count shot past 10,000. Maya's expression didn't change. She simply clasped her hands and said quietly, "Standards." That's an interesting choice of word. She looked at the clock again. 2:57 p.m. 3 minutes until the meeting. Her phone buzzed. A reminder from her executive assistant. "Boardroom 3 p.m. sharp." Maya smiled to herself. Then she looked at Linda, steady, unshaken, and said, "Tell me, Ms. Cooper, in your 17 years here, how many complaints have been filed against you?" The manager blinked. "I don't see how that's relevant." "Oh, it's very relevant," Maya replied softly. "Because this moment, right now, is one that's going to be remembered." The lobby felt smaller now. The quiet chatter had faded into silence as every eye turned toward the counter. A moment ago, this was just another weekday afternoon at Metropolitan Trust. Now, it was something else, something raw and electric. The kind of moment that makes people stop breathing. Linda Cooper's hands twitched as she tried to maintain composure. "This is highly irregular," she said, her voice wavering for the first time. "We must follow procedure." Maya Carter's calm didn't crack. "And what procedure is that exactly?" "The one where you assume someone like me shouldn't have this much money?" The air tightened. Somewhere in the corner a printer clicked faintly, oblivious to the storm building around it. Ethan, the security guard, shifted uncomfortably. He wasn't sure whether to step back or stay close. "Ms. Cooper," he said quietly, "maybe we can handle this a different way." Linda ignored him. "Ms. Carter," she said sharply, "I'm only ensuring compliance with banking regulations. You can't expect special treatment." Maya tilted her head. "Special treatment? I'm asking to withdraw my own funds." Ella's live stream viewer count climbed past 15,000. The comments were relentless now, outrage, disbelief, anger. "She's calm and professional, but they're treating her like a suspect. This is discrimination in real time. Someone call the news." Ella swallowed hard, realizing this wasn't just a video anymore. She was documenting something important, something people needed to see. Maya's phone buzzed again. She glanced at the caller ID, smiled faintly, then set the phone face down on the counter. "Ms. Cooper," she said, "you mentioned verification. What kind would you like?" "You already have my identification, my account information, and my authorization code." "I said it requires managerial approval," Linda insisted. Her tone was sharp, but her confidence was cracking. "You'll need to wait until tomorrow. Bring references, someone who can vouch for you." Maya's eyebrows lifted just slightly. "References? For accessing my own account?" Linda crossed her arms. "Those are our standards, Ms. Carter. We have to maintain the integrity of this institution." Maya's voice turned quieter, but it carried across the room. "Integrity? Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking." Ethan looked at her, a flicker of recognition in his eyes. There was something about this woman, the way she stood, the way she spoke, that didn't fit the picture Linda had painted. "Ma'am," he said softly, "if there's anything I can do—" "You've done enough," Linda interrupted sharply. "Please stay alert in case the situation escalates." "The situation?" Maya asked, and there was steel in her voice now. "Do you see one?" Ethan said nothing. The tension was suffocating. Phones were being raised discreetly. Customers pretending to check messages while recording. The entire lobby had become a silent jury. Maya finally smiled. "Tell me, Miss Cooper, when you say people like me, what exactly do you mean?" Linda's face went red. "That's not what I said. Really." Maya's tone was almost conversational now, because that's what everyone here heard. The young teller, Sophie, looked at Linda with panic. "Miss Cooper, maybe we should just—" "Quiet, Sophie," Linda snapped. Maya exhaled slowly. "You know, Ms. Cooper, I once believed that respect could be earned simply by being excellent at what you do. I believed that credentials, education, success, those things spoke louder than skin. But then I learned something." She leaned in slightly, her voice steady and low. "Some people will always hear silence when the person speaking doesn't fit their picture of authority." Linda opened her mouth, but no words came out. The elevator at the far end of the lobby chimed softly. The doors opened and a man in a navy suit stepped out. His badge read David Lynn, assistant manager. He took in the scene, his brow furrowing. "What's happening here?" "Large withdrawal," Linda said quickly. "Potentially suspicious activity." David looked at the documents on the counter, then at Maya. His eyes widened almost imperceptibly. "Dr. Carter," he said, I didn't realize you were visiting this branch today. The silence that followed was deafening. Linda's face drained of color. You know her? David nodded. Of course I do. Dr. Carter serves on our executive advisory board. Gasps rippled through the lobby. Even Ethan froze, his expression shifting from caution to shock. Maya simply smiled. I was wondering how long it would take before someone recognized me. Ella's live stream exploded. Comments blurred into an endless stream of disbelief. She's on the board? The manager just profiled her own boss. Oh, this is bad. Linda stumbled back a step. I wasn't aware. Of course you weren't, Maya said gently. You were too busy assuming. The crowd watched as authority shifted in real time. The woman who had been questioned now held every ounce of power in the room. Ms. Cooper, Maya said evenly, I'd like you to process my withdrawal now. And after that, I believe we'll need to have a larger conversation, one about how this branch treats its customers. David swallowed. Dr. Carter, would you like to take this to the conference room? No, Maya said firmly. We'll stay right here. Let's keep things transparent. The lobby was silent except for the rhythmic click of Linda's keyboard as she began typing again. Hands trembling, Maya turned to Ethan. Thank you for your professionalism. He nodded, visibly relieved. I'm sorry, ma'am. I should have said something sooner. You just did, she replied softly. And as Linda's screen finally processed the transaction, the elevator chimed again. A tall woman with silver hair and commanding presence stepped out, heels striking the marble with purpose. Maya, she called, her voice clear and authoritative. Is there a problem? Every head turned, Maya smiled faintly. Not anymore, Catherine. But I think we have something to discuss. Ella's camera kept rolling. The live stream count hit 40,000. The internet was watching, and the world was about to learn what real accountability looked like. The moment Catherine Moore stepped into the lobby, the entire room seemed to inhale at once. Her posture was effortless authority, the kind of presence that made people stand taller just by proximity. Maya, she said again, crossing the marble floor with calm, measured steps. What's going on here? Linda tried to regain her composure, brushing at invisible dust on her blazer. This customer was attempting a large cash withdrawal without proper verification. I was only following policy. Catherine's eyes flicked to Maya, then to the document spread neatly on the counter. A customer? She asked quietly. Is that what you said? Linda hesitated. Yes, ma'am. Maya folded her arms. Apparently, I looked too suspicious to withdraw money from my own account. The silence that followed was unbearable. Every employee avoided eye contact. Sophie's face was pale. Ethan looked ready to disappear. Catherine turned slowly toward Linda. You didn't recognize her? No, I didn't. Should I have? Dr. Maya Carter, Catherine said softly, is the Chief Executive Officer of Metropolitan Trust. The words hit like a thunderclap. Phones dropped. Gasps echoed. Someone at the back whispered, Oh my God. Linda's knees almost gave way. She gripped the counter to steady herself. I had no idea. You didn't ask, Maya interrupted. Her tone was still calm, but the words sliced cleanly. You assumed. And you made sure everyone here saw that assumption play out in full view. Ella's live stream counter jumped to 60,000. Comments poured in faster than the screen could load. She's the CEO. That manager's career just ended live. This is unreal, Catherine exhaled. Dr. Carter, I'm so sorry. Let's take this upstairs. No, Maya said, voice firm but composed. We'll talk right here. Let everyone see what accountability looks like. The lobby was so quiet now that even the hum of the lights seemed loud. Ms. Cooper, Maya said, her eyes steady on Linda's. How many years have you worked here? 17, Linda whispered. And in those 17 years, how many discrimination complaints has this branch received? I don't know. I do, Maya said. 19. 19 complaints in less than a year. 17 of them filed by customers of color. Linda blinked rapidly, her hands trembling. That can't be right. It's documented, Maya replied. Our audit flagged it 3 weeks ago. I plan to visit this branch quietly before discussing it at the board meeting. Looks like I found my case study sooner than expected. Catherine's expression hardened. Maya will take disciplinary action immediately. No, Maya said again, shaking her head. We're going to take transformative action. She turned slightly toward the onlookers, her voice carrying across the lobby. I want everyone here to remember this moment. Not because of what went wrong, but because of what can be made right. Accountability doesn't begin in a meeting room. It begins in public, where injustice happens. The words struck something deep. Even the customers who'd been silently filming lowered their phones for a moment. Linda was crying now, quiet and restrained. I didn't mean, Maya raised a hand gently. I believe you didn't mean harm. But harm doesn't require intention. It only requires ignorance and silence. Ethan stepped forward slowly. Dr. Carter, he said, voice low. I should have spoken up sooner. You will, Maya said softly. Next time. Because there always is a next time, and what we do in that moment defines us. She turned back to Linda. You have two choices. You can walk away from this and let it destroy everything you've built, or you can stay and rebuild it right. Linda wiped her eyes. How, after this? I'll never recover. Maya looked at her for a long moment. Then you'll learn how to. Ella's phone was still live. The view count passed 100,000. The internet was watching redemption unfold in real time. Catherine finally spoke. Let's move this upstairs. We'll handle it with the board, Maya nodded. Fine, but we're not burying this. We're going to face it and we're going to fix it. She picked up her phone, glanced at the time, 3 o'clock exactly, and looked around the room. Thank you all for your patience. You've just witnessed something that every institution in this country needs to learn from. As the elevator doors opened, the crowd instinctively parted. The CEO, the COO, and the trembling branch manager stepped inside together. The doors closed silently, leaving behind a lobby full of stunned witnesses. Ella ended her live stream with shaking hands, the final frame lingering on the polished floor that had just witnessed a quiet revolution. By the time the elevator reached the top floor, the video had already been shared more than 200,000 times. The bank's walls, once built to guard wealth, were now holding a story that would test the meaning of integrity itself. The elevator doors opened onto the top floor, revealing a hallway lined with glass walls and the faint scent of polished wood. The quiet here felt heavier, insulated from the chaos below. Maya stepped out first, her heels clicking softly, each sound a reminder that she was in control now. Catherine followed, clipboard in hand, her expression unreadable. Linda trailed behind them, her steps slow and uncertain, eyes fixed on the floor as if she could disappear into it. When they entered the executive conference room, the city stretched out before them, rows of skyscrapers, sunlight reflecting off mirrored glass, the pulse of downtown life moving far below. It was beautiful and distant, a world built on structure and order. Yet inside this room, that order was about to be torn apart. Maya, Catherine said quietly, closing the door. The board's waiting. News outlets are already picking up the story. Social feeds are exploding. Maya nodded. Good, that means the truth is spreading. Linda swallowed hard. The truth is that I made a mistake. Maya turned toward her. No. The truth is that your mistake exposed a pattern, and patterns don't happen by accident. She opened her laptop. Numbers, charts, and reports glowed across the screen. Complaint statistics, demographic breakdowns, customer satisfaction ratings. This, Maya said, pointing at the data, is the mirror we've been avoiding. For years we've talked about diversity, inclusion, customer respect, but only in words. Today those words met reality. Catherine glanced at the charts, her lips tightening. 17 complaints from minority customers in 6 months. That's catastrophic. And each one, Maya said, was quietly filed, quietly ignored. Until today. Linda's voice trembled. I never wanted to hurt anyone. I just thought I was being careful. Maya looked at her steadily. Careful would have meant asking questions before judging. Careful would have meant listening before assuming. The silence stretched until even the hum of the air vents seemed too loud. Finally, Maya spoke again, her voice softer. You know what the hardest part of leadership is, Linda? It's realizing that every small bias, every quiet assumption, ripples outward. It trains others to see through the same distorted lens. Linda's eyes filled. I thought I was protecting the bank. You weren't, Maya said gently. You were protecting a comfort zone. And comfort zones have no place in institutions that hold people's futures. Catherine tapped her pen against the table. Maya will have to make a public statement. Not just a statement, Maya replied. A commitment. I don't want an apology that fades by next week. I want a change that endures. She turned the laptop toward Catherine. We'll launch a full review of customer interactions across every branch. Every complaint, every dismissal, every bias pattern will be tracked. We'll install an independent system that flags discrimination before it festers. Linda blinked. You'd do that? For what I did? This isn't about you alone, Maya said. It's about who we are as a company. You were just the symptom that revealed the disease. Catherine leaned back. The media will devour this story. We could lose investors, customers, or we could gain their trust, Maya cut in. Because real trust comes from transparency. We'll own the mistake before anyone else defines it for us. Linda's shoulders shook. I can resign, she said quietly. You don't have to defend me. Maya studied her. You could, and that would make this simpler. But not better. Redemption requires more courage than resignation. For the first time since the confrontation began, Linda lifted her head. There was shame in her eyes, but something else too. Resolve. What do you want me to do? She asked. Maya stood, walking slowly to the window. Learn, listen, face what you've ignored, and then help rebuild what you broke. Catherine looked at her with admiration tinged with disbelief. You're giving her a second chance? I'm giving the system a chance to heal, Maya said. If I fire her, nothing changes. The next manager will inherit the same blind spots, the same culture. She turned, her voice clear and deliberate. But if we transform the mindset, we transform everything. Catherine took a deep breath. All right, let's do it. But the board's going to need a plan. Maya nodded. They'll have one by morning. The city light spilled across the table, catching the reflection of the data still glowing on Maya's screen. It looked almost alive. Numbers shifting, patterns breathing. A mirror of the world outside where people were already arguing. Tweeting, sharing, reacting, downstairs. The lobby had emptied, but the story hadn't. It was spreading through phones and headlines, through whispers in coffee shops, through the quiet awe of those who had watched a leader handle power without cruelty. Maya looked out the window again. The world is watching us, Catherine. Let's make sure they see something worth believing in. Catherine nodded slowly. And Linda? Maya looked at her once more. She'll be part of what comes next. Whether she redeems herself or not is up to her. As the three women stood in silence, the weight of what had happened began to shift. From shame to purpose, from scandal to opportunity. In the distance, the faint wail of a siren echoed through the city. Somewhere, a news anchor was already reading headlines about a CEO, a bank, and a lesson that every corporation was about to learn. By the time the sun dipped below the skyline, the clip from Ella's live stream had crossed 500,000 views. And for the first time in years, Maya Carter smiled, not because justice had been served, but because change had finally begun. Over the next 48 hours, the story consumed every corner of the internet. Clips of the confrontation appeared on morning shows, financial news panels, and late-night commentary segments. Some people were furious, others were inspired. Most just couldn't believe what they had seen. A CEO humiliated in her own bank, only to answer with calm and purpose instead of vengeance. Inside the headquarters of Metropolitan Trust, the mood had shifted from panic to quiet determination. Reporters waited outside the glass tower for statements, but Maya stayed focused on something larger than damage control. She spent those hours in meetings with legal teams, data analysts, and customer service heads, building the foundation of what she called the Renewal Initiative. It started with 3 words she wrote on a whiteboard: transparency, training, trust. Her voice carried across the crowded conference room. We're not hiding behind apologies. We're showing the world how a bank rebuilds itself from the inside out. Every branch manager, regional director, and executive sat in silence. They all knew this was history in motion. From this day forward, Maya continued, every customer interaction will be logged, reviewed, and analyzed. We'll use AI tools to detect language patterns that suggest bias. We'll track demographic trends in complaints and response times. We'll face what we find even when it's ugly. Catherine nodded, already scribbling notes. And the training? Mandatory for everyone, Maya said. Not just a presentation or an online quiz. Real workshops. Real conversations. We're partnering with community organizations, civil rights educators, and psychologists who understand implicit bias. Across the table, One of the executives raised his hand cautiously. Maya, the public already sees us as the villain. Are you sure transparency won't make that worse? She turned toward him. The public doesn't hate mistakes, she said. They hate denial. If we pretend this never happened, they'll bury us. But if we show that we're learning from it, they'll follow our lead. Meanwhile, the live stream video reached 2 million views. Major newspapers published editorials about systemic bias in the financial industry. Government regulators hinted that they were reviewing other banks for similar issues. And within that storm, Maya's name became a symbol of moral leadership. Linda Cooper watched it unfold from her small apartment. The media called her the face of discrimination. She couldn't turn on the television without seeing her own trembling face frozen mid-sentence. Shame clung to her like a second skin. Yet when she received a call from Catherine inviting her back to headquarters, she said yes. The next morning, she walked into a meeting room filled with people she had never met. Educators, community activists, and consultants leading bias retraining sessions. Maya sat at the head of the table, not as an accuser but as a mentor. Linda, Maya said softly, you have the opportunity to help us build what we should have been all along. Do you understand what that means? Linda nodded. It means owning what I did, every part of it. It means transforming it, Maya said. Because people are watching. Not just customers, employees who want to know if redemption is real. For the first time in weeks, Linda met her eyes. Then I'll earn it, Maya nodded once. Good, then let's begin. The next few weeks reshaped the bank's identity. Branch walls displayed a new message in bold letters. Every customer matters. Every voice counts. Interactive screens invited feedback from anyone who walked through the doors. Complaints went directly to executive oversight within minutes. Ethan, the security guard who once stood silent, now led workshops for new hires about courage and accountability. I thought staying quiet made me neutral, he said in one session. But silence helps the wrong side win. Speak up early. Always. Sophie, the teller, worked with HR to create a mentorship program for junior employees from underrepresented backgrounds. Ella, the college student whose video changed everything, accepted an internship with the digital communications team to document the transformation publicly. In 6 weeks, Metropolitan Trust became something no one expected, a model of transparency and reform. The stock price rebounded higher than before the incident. Customers who had left returned, some bringing others with them. The hashtag #RebuildWithTrust began trending across platforms. When a journalist asked Maya how she had managed to turn a crisis into a movement, she simply said, by telling the truth and refusing to hide from it. Still, behind her composure, Maya knew the work wasn't finished. Transformation wasn't measured in headlines or numbers. It lived in daily habits, quiet corrections, and uncomfortable conversations that no camera would ever capture. One evening, as the building emptied, Maya walked past the branch lobby downstairs, the same one where everything had begun. The lights were dim, the air calm. A plaque had been mounted near the counter. Dignity is not granted. It is recognized. She paused there for a long moment, remembering the tension in the air that day, the humiliation, the anger she had swallowed instead of unleashing. Then she smiled faintly. This was what real power looked like, turning harm into healing and disgrace into growth. But the story wasn't done. Change was only sustainable if it outlived the outrage. Tomorrow she would take the renewal initiative beyond Metropolitan Trust, into an industry that needed it far more than anyone wanted to admit. 6 months later, the name Metropolitan Trust meant something entirely new. What once symbolized arrogance and exclusion had become a model for progress. Every financial magazine, business school, and conference spoke about the renewal initiative. It wasn't just a corporate program anymore. It was a movement. Across the nation, other banks began calling, asking for guidance. They wanted to know how Maya Carter had done it, how she had turned humiliation into honor. Inside the company's gleaming headquarters, the atmosphere was alive with purpose. Employees who once kept their heads down now spoke openly in meetings. Customers felt comfortable voicing feedback without fear. Posters in every branch carried the same phrase, one that Maya had personally written. Respect is not a policy. It's a practice. Linda Cooper now sat in a smaller office on the 10th floor. The corner office she once occupied was gone, replaced by something humbler, but her eyes were brighter. Her days were filled with training sessions, policy revisions, and mentoring managers on empathy and active listening. The woman who had once been the face of discrimination had become one of the strongest advocates for equality within the organization. One afternoon, she joined Maya and Catherine in a crowded auditorium. The company was hosting its first Equity in Banking Summit, attended by executives, journalists, and students from universities around the country. The energy in the room was electric. When Maya walked to the stage, the crowd rose in applause that refused to fade. She waited for silence, then began. 6 months ago, she said, her voice steady and clear, a simple request for a withdrawal turned into a lesson none of us will ever forget. That day, we saw what happens when bias goes unchecked, when silence replaces courage, when procedure becomes an excuse for prejudice. But we also saw what can happen when accountability meets empathy, when people choose to learn instead of defend. The audience leaned forward, listening. Our transformation didn't come from saving face, she continued. It came from facing ourselves. Linda sat near the front, her eyes glistening. Maya looked directly at her when she said, "Redemption is never easy. It's not granted, it's earned. And this company chose to earn it." The applause was thunderous. Cameras flashed. News outlets streamed the event live. But for Maya, the real victory wasn't in the noise. It was in the silence that followed when people truly heard the message. After the summit, journalists surrounded her. "Dr. Carter," one of them asked, "do you believe this change will last? Or is it just a moment of good publicity?" Maya smiled gently. "Publicity fades," she said. "Culture doesn't if you build it right." In the following weeks, her model spread beyond banking. Insurance companies, law firms, tech startups all began adopting the framework she had pioneered. The Federal Finance Committee cited the Renewal Initiative as the new industry standard. Business schools developed entire courses on the transformation, calling it the Carter model. Even critics admitted that something extraordinary had happened. The scandal that could have destroyed a corporation had instead redefined leadership. Meanwhile, Ella Park, the college student who had filmed the entire incident, became one of the youngest voices in corporate reform. Her senior thesis, From Outrage to Opportunity, The Power of Accountability in Leadership, went viral. She returned to Metropolitan Trust as the head of digital ethics communication, Ethan Brooks, once a quiet guard, now trained staff nationwide in ethical security practices. His mantra had become company legend. Neutrality in the face of discrimination is a choice, and it's the wrong one. And Linda Cooper, once humbled, now spoke at national conferences about unlearning bias. Her voice sometimes trembled on stage, but her honesty captivated every room. "I thought I was fair," she often said. But fairness isn't about intentions. It's about impact. I had to lose my pride to find my humanity. 1 year after the incident, Maya Carter stood again in front of a full auditorium, this time at an international leadership conference. The air was thick with anticipation. CEOs from around the world were there, waiting to hear how she had turned 7 minutes of injustice into an enduring revolution. "When I walked into that branch," Maya began, "I was reminded of every moment in my life when I was told to wait, to prove, to justify. But in that moment I realized something powerful. Every act of discrimination creates a fork in the road. One path leads to bitterness, the other to transformation." Her words hung in the air like truth given shape. "I chose transformation," she said quietly, "and because of that choice, so did thousands of others. The question isn't whether injustice will happen again, it's what we do when it does. Will we bury it or will we rebuild from it?" The audience rose to their feet, the applause rolling like thunder through the hall. But Maya didn't smile for the cameras. She looked out into the sea of faces and thought about the quiet lobby where it all began. The sound of her own voice saying $50,000, "Please," and the cold answer that sparked it all. The irony wasn't lost on her. In 7 minutes, a woman had tried to deny her worth. In the months that followed, Maya had shown the world that true worth can't be denied. It can only be revealed. As the applause finally quieted, she ended with one final line that would echo for years to come. "Power isn't about control," she said. "It's about responsibility. And responsibility begins when you have every reason to retaliate and choose to reform instead." That night, as she left the stage to a standing ovation, the world outside felt changed. The lights of the city shimmered like possibility itself. Somewhere another leader was watching, wondering how to face their own moment of truth. And somewhere else, a young woman was walking into a bank confident that this time, she would be seen for exactly who she was because transformation had already begun.